So, what if one of America's greatest authors just wasn't done talking? That's the premise here. We're about to go on this really strange, fascinating journey. And our guide? Well, it's a manuscript that's supposedly been channeled directly from his ghost. And from his pretty unique spot beyond the grave, our guide has seen enough of our world to have, well, let's just say a few more choice words about what he famously called the damned human race.
So where are we going exactly? Well, our journey is on a steamboat, but forget any normal river cruise. This is something else entirely. We're sailing on the river of consciousness itself, a kind of metaphysical Mississippi River that winds through memory, through history, and even through all those what-ifs and might-have-beens.
And this whole trip, it really boils down to one central question, one that I think applies to every single one of us. What are the stories we tell ourselves to stay alive? I'm not just talking about books here, but the stories we spin in our own lives, just to make sense of who we are.
All right, let's get into it. Our voyage kicks off on this ghost ship, which, let's be honest, is the perfect place to start talking about something as slippery and ghostly as identity itself.
The ship has a name. It's called the Phenomenal. And what's interesting is that it's sailing upstream, right? It's pushing against the current. And that's really a metaphor for the human condition, isn't it? This constant struggle against the natural flow. Because, well, if you really want to learn anything, that's the only way to go. And this gets to the absolute core conflict of our guide. See, he wasn't just Mark Twain. He was also Samuel Clemens. You had the man, Samuel Clemens, who dealt with bankruptcy and a lot of personal bitterness. And then you had the persona, Mark Twain, the famous, witty author everyone loved. One guy lived the tough life, the other guy told the great story. So this all leads to the big idea of this whole journey, something called authentic imposture. What is that? It's basically the state of being a total fraud and completely genuine at the exact same time. It's the fiction of the self that we perform so convincingly for so long that we actually forget it's a fiction. You become the fake and the real deal all at once. Okay, so now our ship, the Phenomenal, is about to make its first stops. And at each of these landings, we're going to see a different kind of American story get put under the microscope. And we'll start to see the fictions that really shape our collective identity. First stop, Memphis. And here, Twain's ghost comes face to face with the really weird afterlife of fame. He realizes that celebrity isn't this one solid thing. No, it's more like a shattered mirror. Every single piece reflects a different, often conflicting version of the exact same person. And this idea is just perfectly captured by this scene of 3 different Elvises all arguing with each other forever in a diner. You've got the young rebel, the bloated king, and the old survivor. Each one is a different stage of his life, a different regret, a different what-if. They're all Elvis, and yet somehow none of them really are. The old survivor Elvis, he kind of nails it. Fame turns a person into an idea, a symbol, for other people to use. And in that whole process, the real you just gets lost in the shuffle. So we go from the shattered identity of fame to a completely different kind of prison, the gilded cage of nostalgia. Our next stop is Natchez. And here, the past isn't just something people remember. Oh no, it's perfectly preserved, like it's trapped in amber. It's this beautiful, dead performance of grace and elegance that's hiding a truly awful truth. So you see this fantasy, right? The white-columned mansions, the gracious manners, this beautiful, timeless past. But what's the reality? That elegance, that wealth, was built on unbelievable cruelty. The history isn't in the beautiful architecture, it's in the ledger books of human sales. The whole performance is based on erasing that truth. All right, now the journey takes a much more serious turn. We're heading to a place where all the performance just stops. At Vicksburg, we come face to face with a wound in the American story that is just never healed. It's a truth that's way too raw to be covered up by nostalgia. In this version of Vicksburg we're visiting, the cannons from 1863 are still echoing in the streets. The past isn't over. It's not even past. It's a constant, perpetual present. An eternal conflict that's holding this city, and really the whole country, hostage in this loop of unresolved history. So you see, it's not a timeline of events. It's a state of being. The siege began, the siege continues, the siege never ends. The battle isn't a memory here. It's an ongoing reality. It's a wound that just won't close. Because, as one of the ghosts says, we just keep picking at the scab. And get this, Even the ghost of General Grant is completely disillusioned. He says he won the battle but lost the war. The fight just changed shape, right? It moved off the battlefield and into these bitter arguments over monuments, flags, and who gets to tell the story.
And this is where Samuel Clemens himself has to face his own reckoning. He goes down into a cave under the battlefield, and he has to confront this incredibly difficult truth, that his own work, even his masterpiece Huckleberry Finn, profited from Black suffering, that it used that pain as a prop for a white kid's moral education. He feels like he did his best, but in this moment he's forced to ask himself, was my best actually good enough?
All right, we're reaching the end of our journey. The phenomenal finally gets to the mouth of the river, to New Orleans. And this is the spot where all the different threads of our story, all the themes, all the contradictions, all the ghosts, finally merge and flow together.
Think about it. New Orleans is the delta. It's the end of the line. It's where the mighty Mississippi stops being one single river and just splinters into 1,000 different channels. And in this city, all the lines we've been talking about just dissolve. Past and present, reality and performance, the living and the dead, they all bleed into one another. It's this beautiful, chaotic symphony.
So after all that, what are the big takeaways? What have we learned on this river trip? Well, first, that identity is fluid. It's something we perform. Second, that nostalgia is a trap, a dead-end fantasy. Third, that history is a wound, and the only way it heals is by looking at it honestly. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, that consciousness, the thing that connects us all, is just so much bigger and weirder than any one story we can tell about ourselves. And then there's this final, totally surreal twist. Clemens gets to Jackson Square, and what does he see? A bunch of street performers acting out the entire journey we just went on. The story literally comes full circle, and he's forced to just stand there and watch, to be an audience member for his own life, watching the performance of the character he invented, Mark Twain, from the outside looking in. And that's how it ends. The whole journey turns the question right back on us. Because let's face it, we all perform roles. We all create fictions of who we are. So this trip down the river of consciousness leaves us with one last, very profound and very personal question for you to think about. What is your authentic imposter?